Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the Planning Commission. Kristen Ashbeck, Principal Planner with City Community Development Department. Before you tonight is consideration of a request by the City of Grand Junction to amend Title 21 of the Grand Junction Municipal Code pertaining to the regulations that govern the Planned Development or PD Zone District. In an effort to keep the Zoning and Development Code current and relevant, staff is proposing modifications to clarify the provisions that govern the Planned Development Zone District and its process. The Planning Commission discussed these topics at recent workshops and directed staff to proceed with the proposed changes. Presently, there are two sections of the code that address the process and regulations for property that is or is proposed to be zoned planned development, as shown here, Section 2 and Section 5 of Title 21. This has caused for confusion for both development applicants and staff in the interpretation of the regulations, as there are some redundancies and inconsistencies in their application. In addition, the current planned development standards have some provisions that limit the desired flexibility as well as reasonable expectations for the development, especially larger ones, to be completed under this zone district. Upon completion and adoption of the 2020 Comprehensive Plan, staff will recommend that Title 21 be amended in its entirety to conform with and implement the vision, goals, and policies of that new plan. However, in the meantime, there are three specific elements of the PD regulations that staff recommends be addressed at this time that will alleviate the most pressing issues that have been encountered. One is to provide additional flexibility in deviations allowed within a PD zone district. Two is to clarify the phasing schedule of the PD process. And three is to clarify what it is to occur if there is a lapse of the PD zone. Regarding the ability to deviate from standards, this is the current language in the code and the listing of bulk standards for the residential districts that can currently be deviated if requested with a planned development. As stated, deviations from any of the default standards within Chapter 21.03 may be approved, but the reference section is only pertinent to bulk standards of an underlying zone district such as setbacks, lot size, and lot dimensions. Staff believes that in order to meet the purpose of the PD and achieve goals of the comprehensive plan, deviations to other sections of the code may also be relevant to consider for deviation and flexibility desired in a proposed development. Other similar bulk standards can be found elsewhere in the code. For example, in order to achieve some of the desired goals for density and intensity, as well as provide open space and protect hillsides and/or steep slopes within a PD, deviations to other bulk standards can be considered. To allow for this flexibility in the ability to deviate from other bulk standards in the code, staff is recommending clarification to reference not just deviations from the default zone district, but to also reference other standards within the code. Regarding the clarification of the phasing schedule for a planned development, the approval criteria for a planned development zone and an ODP or outline development plan, as stated in the code here, includes language regarding the development schedule as well as a second subsection regarding validity. The two sections are redundant and neither of them specifically allow for development schedule to be established contrary to that of the overall zoning and development code, which has a maximum time limit to complete a project within 10 years. As the city is considering larger developments, it is not unlikely that a schedule may be proposed for a PD that is beyond 10 years. Thus, staff is recommending that the validity section be amended to add a qualification that, for a PD, a development schedule may be proposed that is not subject to other terms of validity found in the code. As for clarifying the lapse of plan, the existing code section here that addresses what is to occur if a planned development, zoning, and plan lapses, it is ambiguous and problematic in its interpretation. Staff is recommending new language in order to clarify this section of the code. The specific new language is included in the proposed ordinance. There are no specific criteria for review because a code amendment is a legislative act and within the discretion of the City Council to amend the code with a recommendation from the Planning Commission. Staff finds that these proposed amendments to the plan development section of the code are useful in that they modernize the code, ensure the health, safety, and welfare of the community, and refine the processes that provide regulations that are clear and consistent and that assist in logical and orderly development. That concludes my presentation for this evening. Thank you for your consideration of these amendments.